everyone. Welcome to the Academy Consulting Podcast. My name is Arica.
And I'm Mike.
And we're super excited today because we are joined by a special guest. Now, this is a big one. The village president, the president of Slinger. We're so lucky to have you here in our office with us, Scott Stewart. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
We're a new, semi-new business / ministry here in Slinger. And so we invited Scott here today to sort of let you know who we are and what we do in hopes that you want to come and hang out with us.
Great.
So
I got a couple questions for you guys.
Okay.
Give us a little background on you specifically, what brought you here, and how long you've been doing this.
Well, the name of the business is Academy Consulting. We've been here for about a year. And what brought us here is we both used to be pastors. We were pastors in Ripon for a combined 30 years. And we did a ton of counseling as pastors over the years with all sorts of different people. And both really loved it. The church grew really, really big. So it's hard to spend time with people. We always had to refer people out for counseling. And we both just missed it. We really, really enjoyed meeting one-on-one with people. So we said, why don't we leave the church, come down to Slinger, and open up an office here because there's certainly a need for more counselors in this area.
Absolutely. So you both were pastors at the same church?
Yes, I was a pastor at a different church for about 9 years. And then, yes, I was hired. Mike was actually my boss to start out, and I was the pastor of Connections and Care. So I was the one doing the weddings, the funerals, meeting with the people most of the time. And for me, it was like I could never follow them through an entire journey because there was just that many more people lined up out the door.
2,000 people in the church. So it's hard
hard.
to spend individual time with people.
Yeah. And, we're pastors, but we're not in your box kind of people. Okay. We are just normal, everyday people that have lived some pretty difficult things and have learned how to navigate them in such a way that I think we lead really good lives now in spite of everything that has happened. And there is nothing better for me than trying to get other people to see that no matter what you're going through, everything will be okay. That's just true.
I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, that people are on a different journey. Everybody's on a different journey. Some have a stronger faith than others. Some that may want to have counseling, whether it's individual or couples therapy or counseling or whatever. They may or may not want a certain degree of,
God
Christian
stuff.
speak. Right.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
Well, what we always say to everyone is, I don't really care what you believe. I really don't. We can talk about faith as much or as little as you want. My goal and our goal together is to just help you navigate whatever it is that life is throwing at you. My personal belief is God can help you with that. Faith can help you see things a little differently, but we never push that on to people. I always say you're the driver of the ship, so to speak. As a client, you are the one who is in control of what we talk about, how long we talk about it, and where you want to go. And so faith is a part of that.
It's a good question, though, because I can certainly see people being a little weirded out. I'm like, I'm going to go to this place, and they used to be pastors. Oh, I shouldn't tell a pastor that. You can't possibly tell me anything I haven't heard over 20 years of counseling. You can't possibly. And the number one thing God says about us is don't judge other people. So I have no judgment for others. That would be totally wrong. I believe in God. I think most people do believe in a higher power. And if they want to talk about it, they can. But I'm a man. I'm a person. I'm a dad. I'm 57 years old. I have a ton of life experience. That's what we're talking about. I've seen in the church life people with like fantastic seemingly circumstances end up miserable, and I've seen people with what seem to be very difficult circumstances be very happy. So I know that we can all find happiness, and it's fun to help people find happiness in their own life.
So one of the things that really came to light with COVID was the increase of mental health, it seemed like, especially among children, but with adults too. Not that it wasn't an issue before, but it seemed to have amplified that and whatnot. What are you seeing in terms of people coming in to talk to you about mental health? I know it's a huge issue. The county's even struggling with programs to fund it and whatnot. It's hard to get into any counseling for this. What are you seeing in terms of calls on that, and what kind of availability and openings do you have to help folks or their kids that are struggling with mental health issues?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's actually an amazing thing that we're finally talking about mental health. I don't necessarily think that COVID made everything worse, so to speak. Some may feel that way.
Just brought it to
but
light.
I think COVID opened up the conversations to say, you know what? You're a successful leader in your community, but you know what? It's okay to say, I just need a little encouragement. I need a different perspective. I just need to talk to someone, especially men, no offense, but a lot of men, you guys just don't talk about your stuff. Women, we do. We like that. We get into that. And so I love that aspect of it, that people are becoming more brave, and the stigma of, I need counseling. There's a negative connotation to that, at least in the past, but I think that's changing now. And I'll even have that now with some of the clients that come in here. A lot of them are successful business owners and people that to the outside world should have it all together. And they believe that. So they try to keep it together, but no one has it all together, including me, including you, we just don't.
But that's what COVID did. Life is really stinking difficult. There's so many things that happen, whether it's parenting or marriages or job stress, or there's so many things. We all deal with it.
Right.
And you kind of put on this front like everything's okay. I'm going to clean it up, and I'm going to go to work, and I'm going to look good and work hard.
Like when you go to church.
Same thing, right? Like I used to say, when I was a pastor, I used to say, don't put on your church face here. Just be yourself.
Right.
You're not going to be perfect. I know a lot of the people in this room, no one's perfect.
Right.
Whoever you think has together, they don't.
Yeah.
So what happened in COVID, though, is that was like the exclamation point on the difficulty in life.
Yeah.
Life was already difficult, and then COVID came. It's like, okay, good grief, I can't take it.
Yep.
And it pushed everyone. They put a highlight on it, like you said. And the good part about that is people with authority, whether they were movie stars or athletes or whatever, started speaking more publicly about mental health.
Yes.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, I love the Bucks.
Yep.
He talked about his own mental health. I might leave basketball because, and others have done the same. Other classic sports figures right here in our area, where now, especially for men and women too, though, are saying, you know what, it's not that big a deal. Right. I can talk about mental health.
But it does take usually a celebrity or somebody with authority to open up the door for others that they feel like they have a backing.
Yeah. If Giannis needs help, or I have a good friend who needs help, wait, I'm not weird. I'm like everybody else. I need some help too.
Well, and I think it's been clear that mental health has been stereotyped as is not in the past a legitimate thing. It's not like, I broke my arm. It's there's a problem with you that can't be fixed, and that's not true. I read a statistic, I don't remember the exact numbers, but in cases of suicide, it's actually more men than women that commit suicide. I just attended a funeral 4 weeks ago from a gentleman in his 30s who committed suicide. Yeah. You wouldn't have known it, and it's and I think especially for men, it's like you were saying earlier, it's difficult to admit that you need help because we've been put on a pedestal of you should have all the answers. You
don't cry, don't be a baby, don't show your emotions.
Right. Otherwise, you'll be perceived as weak
or
incapable of handling a situation. So, hopefully, people understand that when you go to a counselor or a therapist, it is going to be private. You don't be afraid to make the phone call.
Right. And that's the thing. Like coming in to have a conversation actually shows your strength.
Right.
And shows your courage.
Right.
And it's hard to be vulnerable. It absolutely is. But I always tell people, change is hard, but I've never once had one person tell me that they regret it. Not once.
In business, because my other job is real estate, it's I've always had the most admiration for those that acknowledge that they don't know everything. That they are willing to seek out answers and ask questions and not bottle it up. I've said to my agents 1,000 times, the morning you get up and you think you know everything there is to know about selling real estate, don't come to work that day. That's the day you're going to make a mistake. Yeah. It's no different when you finally feel like you're at a breaking point and you need counseling. You need somebody to talk to other than your wife or your child or your boss or your coworker. It's like, I need to bounce this off of a neutral party to help me sort through it. That's not a bad thing. That, like you said, I think can show strength, not weakness. Yeah. And nobody doesn't even know that they're doing this.
Exactly. Everything is confidential. But the other thing, too, is so many people are walking around with these negative thoughts in their head all the time, especially about yourself. I'm not good enough. I did this 20 years ago. We hang on to this guilt and this shame about things. And honestly, that is just not the way this life has been designed for us to live. But the world has tricked us into believing so much about it that just isn't true.
Everything tells you all the time you don't have enough or you're not enough.
Right.
All of advertising is that way, and we subject ourselves to it all the time. In media, TV, whatever we're doing, there's always advertising because that's what pays for it.
Right.
And in that advertising, they're always pointing out you need this, you need that, you need this, insinuating you are not enough or you don't have enough. And so we lose hope. Like you mentioned, suicide. I've experienced suicide in my immediate family. I've counseled many people over the years regarding suicide. And the number one reason is people feel like they don't have hope.
Right.
There's just no hope. Suicide is just an escape.
Right.
I have no hope. I just have to escape this mess. And I think people can have hope. No matter what your situation, there is hope. And I've seen so many people's whole lives turn around who looked hopeless for a point.
Right.
But they experience some bad things, they get through it, and they start a new life. Like we call it Life 2.0, where it's the life you want to design for yourself.
Why shouldn't you? I mean, people even church shop. They're leaving
Definitely.
the church. They want to find something.
Of course.
So why shouldn't you counselor shop? Why shouldn't you meet with a couple different counselors to find out who clicks? Because different personalities will work for you that others won't.
I think it as mental health becomes this big thing, I think the more conversations we have as people, as parents, as men, men sit around talking about, I don't know what you guys talk about, fishing or business or what. But
Secret stuff.
If you start actually
Secret
talking
stuff.
about things that matter, that's how we see change.
Yeah. It's funny. Many years ago, a friend and I lost another friend in a boating accident, and it really kind of jarred us. And we made a pact that the two of us were going to at least once a month go out to dinner, just the two of us or whatever. Because you know how a month slips into 3 and 3 slips into 9.
Yes.
It's like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you so long. So we've been pretty good on track for doing that for about a decade now. And I'll come home and my wife will say, so what'd you guys talk about? I'm like, nothing. She's like, no, what did you talk about? I'm like, nothing. She goes, you literally talked about nothing? And I'm like, well, there was a baseball game on. So you're right. Because I don't think guys get into really deep conversations.
Well, okay, if there's one takeaway out of this whole podcast, whether you come to this office or you don't, I have a resource for you. There's a company out there called the Skin Deep, and they make boxes of cards, and the whole point of them is to deepen our connection with other people. Here's a perfect example. My older children were home last week, and we went out to dinner. And we're at dinner, and they had some friends with them, and we're just having normal small talk conversation. If you can imagine, I don't like small talk conversation. I like conversation that really matters. So we went to another place after that, sat out on the deck. I took out my box of cards. We started having real conversations. One of the questions was, what did you used to do as a child that you miss? And they're 20-somethings. 3 of us said swinging on the swings. What did we do? Went to the park after that. And it's
So
just
from the bar to the park.
from the bar to the park. It was so
Usually goes
fun.
the opposite way, right?
But what I mean is to be intentional with our questions, and sometimes that's hard. But the company's called the Skin Deep. A box is like $20 or $30. They have all different kinds: relationships, family, fun, coworkers, everything and anything. And I think when we can start having honest conversations, everything changes. And that's why you come to counseling.
So
right?
for a dad of teens, buy the box.
Yeah.
And it's something to talk about at dinner.
I'm assuming somebody comes to you for counseling. Every topic is on the table, that you guys are willing to discuss everything from marriage to mental health to work stresses to anxiety to sexual issues. I mean, you guys, you have the capability, the experience, and the ability to make them feel comfortable about just about pretty much any topic.
Yeah.
20 years of experience at it. And I mentioned when you came in, if you can come up with something that I've never talked to someone about before, I'll treat you to lunch. Because everyone's always afraid, like, my thing is so different.
Right.
We all struggle through the same stuff. You've got your set of issues, I've got mine. We all do, but some of ours overlap, and so do everyone else's. So I don't think someone should ever be afraid to bring something up. There's nothing new out there.
Yeah.
So, we can talk about anything. And the other thing I will add to that, though, is sometimes if people want to have a medication prescribed or whatever, then we refer them to their primary doctor to connect them up with a psychiatrist who could prescribe medicine. We don't do that.
So
but we refer people out.
You're quick to identify if if there are certain issues that need maybe medical attention,
of course,
that you're not going to go down that road, you're not licensed to go down that road, and you at least have resources for them to. Okay.
And there's plenty of people actually do both for us. Like they may go to their doctor and have a antidepressant prescribed for them.
Sure.
And they're doing that, but then they're also seeing us as well.
Oh yeah.
That's very common.
Yeah, I always like to say that I'm a bit of a butt kicker. Every time you come here and you meet with us, we always give you action to do when you leave. My goal is to train your brain how to learn how to change your patterns and how you're thinking and believing about things, whether you're stressed or have OCD or anxiety, millions of things. I want to teach you how to thrive, not need you to thrive. I want to take your hand and say, let me show you the truth. The way you're thinking is you haven't been trained right. But you're old, so it's going to take you a while to retrain it, but I'm here with you. You don't have to live this way, that kind of thing. So we always have action steps. We call it homework, but homework might be negative. And the other thing, too, is one of the questions we get asked a lot is, do we accept insurance, or what kind of payments do we accept? We do not take insurance, but our care is very affordable. And what I always tell people is don't ever let money stop you. We've never turned anyone away because they can't afford it. I really just believe that it's my mission in life to help people. And I obviously we have to make a living, but come in, we'll meet with you one time, we will figure something out. So don't ever let your finances be a barrier to getting you the help that you need.
And one thing that I have heard is that, especially off of this COVID thing, we're now talking about mental illness and stresses and other things. It's become more acceptable that getting into a counseling session is almost impossible. So what is your schedules like? I mean, do you have openings? What's your time frames like?
Right now, we can usually get you in within a week.
Okay.
As of now.
That is that's almost unheard of, so that's good to know.
It's part of why we're here, though, because when we were pastors referring people to counselors all the time, they couldn't get in. Like a heartbreaking one for me is a family I knew very well, and they had a 17-year-old son who really needed to see a counselor. They told him 3.5 months.
Yeah.
That's a lifetime for a 17-year-old.
That's so much can happen.
That's not an acceptable answer. I don't know if you got to stay late or come in on Saturday, whatever. But you're not telling a 17-year-old to wait 3 months.
No.
So it was part of the impetus of this. Was like, listen, we need to do something about it. Just you couldn't get people into counselors.
And we do see clients on Saturdays as well, which helps with scheduling and everything else. Give us a call. We will put our information in the comment section below, our website and our email and our phone number as well. If you want to give us a call and set up a time to come, we are here to chat. Again, your first time is absolutely free. The other cool thing is it's Mike and I. So you can have a women's perspective, you can have a man's perspective. When we do couples counseling, we have a really unique program that we do. You sign up initially for only 3 sessions. And the first session, the woman meets with me. The man will meet with Mike. Second time we flip-flop, and then the third time we all meet together. And so it's really different and cool. And people, whenever you come in this office, you always have a choice, and we can give you a little taste of who we are, and then you can choose as well. So
I like that, and then you two can kind of
collaborate.
Share notes and figure out, how do we conquer this?
Yes.
Where we can do this without embarrassing either party, but find a resolution.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And Mike has 30 plus years of marriage experience. I was married for 20 years and now divorced. Yeah. And so we come at it from different angles and different perspectives, but I personally am a champion for marriage, and I believe that there is hope for every couple out there if they're willing to get the help.
Right.
And so sometimes you just need it straight, though. You can have all kind of counselor talk, or you can just talk straight like people.
Right.
So, for instance, in a couple of situations, if I'm one-on-one with a man, and I already know they have problems not spending enough time together, or whatever, and he fishes all the time, I've literally said this to someone. Well, you can go fishing every day, all day, and then expect to live alone or sleep with your fishing rods at night.
Right.
Like that's your choice. If you want to sleep with fishing rods,
what's
go
the
fish
compromise?
Right.
Yeah. Is there a compromise?
Right. But you can say that two guys can talk about that, and it's not a big deal.
Right.
You're not offended that I said it. You actually appreciate that we didn't have to beat around the bush for 3 hours.
Well, and then
we just say it like it is.
Yeah. Well,
give it to you straight.
Sometimes I think more than sometimes people just need to hear it.
If you're just straight up, people just appreciate honesty.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for spending some time with me today. I think I shared with you earlier that the series that I'm doing here in Slinger, What's Going On Slinger, it's opened my eyes to so many things that are going on in this community that I didn't even know about. And I know that others have reached out to me after they've seen my videos and said, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that was in town. So for you to spend this time today and to really kind of lay it out and explain what you do and give viewers an opportunity to know a little bit more about you, I think is going to be very helpful to just not only your business, but to the community. Because I honestly, I did not even know what you exactly did here. So I find it refreshing, and I applaud your efforts. And
thank you.
This village is growing by leaps and bounds, and I wish that mental health issues and all those other things weren't either, but those are growing as well. And it's important that we do have a resource to go to, and not always in a medical clinical feeling way.
Yeah.
So,
well, we're here. We're here to serve you, your family, your friends, and everyone in between. And thank you too for all the work that you do, and for Slinger is an amazing place to live. I'm new here. I've only been here 2 years, but the schools, I can't say a negative thing.
No, I've said this and I've heard this, and it drives me nuts that Slinger is the best kept secret. I don't want this to be a secret.
Well, now we're all here.
I want the world to know that this is the place to be. And this is just another shining example of why you want to move here. We've got the services. We've got everything you need.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for coming today. It was such a pleasure. I really appreciate you taking the time to get to know us a little bit. And thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.